Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's top 10 episodes of Game of Thrones Season 5. So there are 10 episodes in Season 5, so I am going to rate them in order from my least favorite to my favorite. Also, I'll give my final ratings out of 10, 10 being the best and 1 being the worst for each episode. Coming in at number 10, and thus my least favorite, is Kill the Boy, which gets the rating of a 5. Kill the Boy was to me a very slow episode, which with a lot of unnecessary filler, particularly involving Sansa and Ramsay as they acted like idiots. In fact, this episode seemed even more pointless in retrospect. Number 9 is The Worst to Come with a rating of 6, down from a 7 which I had originally given it. The Worst to Come was an average season opener that just, got everyone situated for what was coming this season, but wasn't anything special. Number 8 is The House of Black and White with a rating of 7, down from an 8, which I had originally given it. This was a decent episode that helped further set up situations such as Arya's training and how much trouble Daenerys was in, but overall it was nothing special. Number 7 is The Sons of the Harpy with a rating of a 7, up from a 6, which I had originally given it. Sons of the Harpy was an interesting episode that started to raise the stakes this season with Barristan and Selmy being killed, and it had this lovely scene between Stannis and Serene, which was of course just softening us up for what was to come. Number 6 is High Sparrow with a rating of 8, down from a 9 that I had originally given it. The highlight of this episode were the back and forth between Cersei and Marjorie just starting to manipulate Tommen, which was so awesome to see. The rest of it was pretty good setup for the season to come. Number 5 is Mother's Mercy with a rating of a 9. And yes, I'm holding firm on my rating of a 9, as many felt I should give it a lower rating because all the complaining I did in the review for this episode, but I'll explain again what I said in that review, that most of my complaints were about the overall Season 6 storyline and not specific to this episode. Although there were a few problems I had with this episode, such as Brienne just missing the candle, Sansa having to be saved, and Ilaria stupidly killing Marcella. For the most part, this episode was a powerhouse of epic conclusions, such as seeing Stannis' downfall, seeing Arya get her revenge and face the consequences, and seeing Cersei, get her comeuppance, and to finally see Jon Snow's tragic ending. With all the epicness in this episode, it actually deserved to be a solid 10 and towards the top of this list, but because of the faults I mentioned, it holds it back to a 9, but I stand solidly firm that this episode is a 9 and my 5th favorite episode of the season. Number 4 is The Gift with a rating of 9. This was a great episode where we finally see Tyrion snake his way to Daenerys, and most of all, seeing Lady Olenna try to work her magic on King's Landing, which eventually led her to Littlefinger and his gift, which led to Cersei getting locked in a cell like she deserves. Number 3 is Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken with a rating of a 9, down from a 10 that I had originally given it. In retrospect, it's not quite a 10, but still a solid episode. I'm sure my placing this episode so high will turn some heads because it's generally considered the worst of the season, and in IMDb's website, it's currently the lowest rated episode for the entire series. And this is due mostly to 2 scenes, the Sand Snakes fight scene and Sansa's wedding night. And although I don't consider either scene to be great, I don't hate them as much as anyone else does either. Certainly not enough to dampen the brilliance of the other scenes in this episode, which contained everything I loved about Game of Thrones, as it had themes of distorting lies and truth to get what you want. Has Arya learned to do that in order to get a step further to becoming a faceless man, and Tyrion did that in order to stay alive with the slavers, and Littlefinger did that with Cersei in order to manipulate her. So I stand behind. This was a very solid episode. Number 2 is Hardhome with the rating of 10. Indisputably one of the best episodes of the season and possibly the entire series, as the opening set up Arya in her new life as Lana, and we finally got to see Tyrion and Daenerys sit down and have an interesting conversation. But most of all, we were treated to a truly horrific, terrifying Greatly executed battle sequence when the White Walkers attack at Hardhome that finally drives home where the real battle in this show is. And my number one favorite episode of Season 5 is The Dance of Dragons with a rating of a 10. The final scene in the fighting pits where Daenerys is attacked by the Sons of the Harpy and then saved by Drogon is easily my favorite scene of the entire series. It was such an amazing sequence, it's impossible to articulate. And on top of that, we get this very tragic and amazingly acted scene where Stannis sacrifices Shireen, which was so emotionally powerful to watch. I put it on par with viewing the Red Wedding. And if that wasn't enough, we also get to see Dorne at its best with Doran laying down the law, and then we get these great setup scenes with Arya following Meryn Trant and where Mace Tyrell makes an ass out of himself by singing. This episode had it all, topped off with the best ending ever, making it my number one favorite episode of Season 5. So that's it for my top 10 episodes of Game of Thrones Season 5. Make sure you check out my channel for many other Game of Thrones videos. I'm currently doing a series of Season 5 reviews, including an overall Season 5 review, my top 20 favorite moments, my 10 least favorite moments, and my top 10 characters of Season 5. So make sure you subscribe to keep up with all that, and thanks a lot for watching.